Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where we read surprisingly interesting stories that usually don't end in a cliffhanger. If you are new to my channel, please feel free to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right in. Calculating damages for homemade items. Over the weekend, a few houses on our street, including ours, were targeted for vandalism. The culprits were caught on multiple security cameras and turned out to be a group of 4, 12 and 13-year-old boys. They were arrested but released to their parents that same evening. The families are eager to sweep this under the rug and offer to pay for all of the damages with little argument. For the other neighbors that is great, but for us I handmade almost every single decoration, including the furniture they destroyed, and I have no idea how to calculate our monetary damages. I can calculate exactly how much it would cost me to recreate each item and all of the supplies necessary to recreate the item, and also I can calculate how much it would cost to buy a similar item already made. I'm not sure which way to go, or if I should calculate my time spent making these things, or if I should charge for all supplies purchased or just the amount used. My husband grossly overestimates my skills. He thinks I'm like the Picasso of Halloween decorations, God bless him, and thinks I should charge the cost of supplies purchased rather than supplies used, and $15 per hour for the time it would cost me to recreate everything, which would take weeks. I've been working on our current displays for going on 4 years now. Neighbors think I should charge how much it would cost to buy the item already made, which is notably more expensive, even factoring in $15 per hour. So I can be restored right now instead of having to make everything again. I am leaning towards charging only for supplies purchased because I obviously cannot buy just exactly the amount of fabric, paint, etc. I'm going to use. So, legal advice, how much do I request for reimbursement? A user in the comments mentioned asking for an hourly wage for recreating your decorations is perfectly reasonable. $15 per hour seems like a reasonable amount to request. Do you have a way to accurately calculate how many hours it did and/or will take you to recreate or restore everything that was damaged? Another way to calculate the value of your time is to browse a website such as Etsy and look up the price for similar items. If 3 sellers are asking an average of $45 for a similar item you made, then $45 would be a reasonable demand, even if it only costs you $10 to do it yourself. You are certainly entitled to the value of the item, even if that exceeds the amount you spent to create it. Keep in mind that anything you have made and used from years prior would not be new and should not be calculated based on new replacement price. It all boils down to what you feel your time and skills are worth, and you have multiple ways to calculate this. Don't be afraid to ask for too much. That leaves room for negotiation. If the parents are willing to settle for a higher amount, they certainly can, even if it is more than the amount to which you are legally entitled, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. And if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you very much. And now the update to the Halloween vandalized story. I know this was not an exciting situation or anything, but I thought I would update this. My husband, 2 non-crafty and unbiased friends and I spent a few days going through pictures of the decorations pre-vandalism, pricing all of the materials and comparing materials plus labor/expenses to store-bought/pre-made versions found on Etsy and major retailers. My version was almost always cheaper, including labor and expenses, so we went with that for everything. After depreciation for things I didn't make this year, we still got a pretty high number, but we rounded it up and figured it would be a good starting point for negotiation. My husband met with the other parents and residents a few days ago without me. I am a horrible negotiator and confrontational. I'm not so great at keeping my cool, and surprisingly, they agreed to the rounded up amount with no argument. Yesterday afternoon, all 4 boys came with their parents, accompanied by the police officer who handled the vandalism, and the boys apologized, gave us each 4 handwritten apology letters, and then each boy gave us a small Halloween decoration they bought themselves to get us started on rebuilding our displays. It was a really sweet gesture and they seemed genuinely apologetic and like they really understood the seriousness of what they had done. The parents handed us an envelope with the full amount of what we calculated plus an extra $100, and when we questioned the extra, they said it was for inconvenience. One of the parents also gave us a jar of homemade pumpkin butter and her own apology note. The officer asked us to sign paperwork saying we were fully reimbursed for the damages the boys caused that night, which we did. He is supposed to mail us a copy of the paperwork later this week. After today, the boys are not allowed in the neighborhood at all for at least a year, but we don't think they will pull anything like this again after all of this anyway. It has been raining off and on all week, so we have had plenty of time to work on new decorations for our display. We finally started putting things out again yesterday. We still have a lot to go and probably won't finish everything before next weekend. Our destroyed display was of 5 years worth of work, but between store-bought replacements, some donations from friends and family, and the things we have done so far, it's looking pretty good. And guys, I'm curious, has any stranger ever vandalized something in your home? Let us know in the comments. You know, for me personally, there was only one case, maybe 5 years ago on New Year's Eve, where a group of strangers threw eggs at our house. Which was sort of disgusting, but honestly not a big deal. Neighbor's dog killed my goats, I killed it, now he wants to sue. This happened earlier tonight. I was awoken by the sounds of growling and my goats screaming. I went outside with a rifle and a spotlight and saw a baby goat being dragged away by what I thought was a coyote. I shot and it disappeared, so I ran inside to put on a pair of shoes and came back out. I saw that my breeding Billy was dead in the pasture and a baby goat dead next to my neighbor's German Shepherd, which was also dead. I took several pictures of everything I thought was relevant, including the section of fencing the dog dug under, then put the dog in the back of my truck and took him to the neighbor's house. When I told him what happened, he got very angry, which I understand completely, but I was pretty upset myself and told me to leave. After I left, I received a call from him telling me he wants $3,000 for shooting his dog. I told him I understood that he is upset, but if anything, he owes me money. The goats killed were both male and breeding billies, can be worth several $1,000s over the course of their lives. The adult goat killed was only 3 years old as well. Anyway, he proceeded to cuss me out, threatened to come over with his shotgun, and then hung up. My question is there a possibility that he could sue me? Can I possibly sue him to recoup my damages? The billy was the best one I've ever seen. Almost all of the nannies he bred would have 2 or 3 goats, which is fairly rare for my herd. I have pictures of the dog's body next to the dead baby goat if that could be used as evidence. Also, if I sue, should I file it myself in small claims or should I hire a lawyer? I really am out quite a bit of money and the search for a new billy won't be quick or easy. Edit, this is the update I have posted below. I have a written demand letter and tomorrow or Monday I'm going to send it to him via certified mail. Update, since Reddit doesn't seem to want to let me edit my post to add more information and I cannot post more than once every 10 minutes or so, I will update like this. First off, thanks for the advice everyone. I'm not going to follow all of it though, because frankly, some of it kinda sucks. But thank you nonetheless, I think there's a lot of good advice in this thread that I will use. Secondly, after posting last night, I ended up going back to sleep. My neighbor sent me an email apologizing for what his dog did and asking if we could all put it behind us. I replied to the email telling my neighbor that I was happy that he doesn't seem to bear any ill will, but that I am out of quite a bit of money. I told him $4,500, $500 for the baby, $500 for the billy, and $3,500 for the babies the goat might have had in a year. And that I was going to need the dog's shot records. I am unsure if the dog managed to bite any of my other goats, but I would like to make sure I'm not going to lose any of them to rabies. I told him he could pay me now or I could take him to small claims court to get more money, as I honestly feel like I'm kinda lowballing my damages for him. I explained to him my reasoning for asking so much and ended the email there. He responded telling me to F myself for asking that after I killed his dog. I have not replied to that yet. Would getting a demand letter from a lawyer be a good idea? I would rather not hire a lawyer to sue, but from what I've read, a demand letter can be fairly cheap to get. Also, could I find the dog's shot records anywhere? I feel like it would be kind of a long shot though. We are outside city limits and it's likely that the dog is not registered. In the pictures I took you can see the dog's collar and the neighbor's name on the text though. And guys, I'm curious, what would you suggest OP to do? And moreover, which side are you on? The neighbor's side whose dog got killed or the OP side whose goats got killed? Let us know in the comments. And now an update to the neighbor's story. This all happened several months ago and it did get a bit exciting, so I figured I would update as you all seem keen on those. Short story, I got more than I originally asked for. Long story, neighbor got drunk and tried to drive his truck through my house. Presumably he hit a tree instead. Tree fell over onto my roof and destroyed it, as well as quite a few electronics in the room under where the tree hit, as it was raining quite hard at the time. Neighbor ended up with a broken leg, rib and arm. I got home a while after all this happened and found him still in his truck, so I called an ambulance and sat there to make sure he was not going to die or try to do more damage. Anyway, after it was all said and done, his insurance wrote me a very large check for the roof and electronics, and I got a court judgment for nearly what I was asking, $4,500 for the goats and damage to the fence. I'm currently in talks with another lawyer to find out what it will take to get the tree replaced. And the neighbor moved away. Don't know if it is just because he thinks I ruined his life or if he just sold his house to cover his costs. Frankly, I don't care, I just want him far away from me. And I don't know about you guys, but this ending was extremely satisfying for some reason. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this story, and furthermore, if you still enjoy r/LegalAdvice as a whole. And the next one is titled, Accused of Abusing My Kids. Cannot see them, no one will tell me what I'm being accused of, cannot defend myself. This is every father's nightmare. My children's mother and I lived in MT up until June of last year. The mother decided to move to AK with the kids and I reluctantly allowed them to, as long as I would get generous visitation and communication with them. We filed a parenting plan. After they left MT, I moved to IL due to a great job opportunity. The kids came to visit me twice and we had a great time both visits. The boys were supposed to visit me during May, but the mother abruptly cancelled the trip at the last minute. Due to some cryptic comments that she made regarding the cancellation, I called the Office of Children's Services in AK and learned that she had reported me for child abuse and there was an active investigation. Here is where it gets crazy. I learned about the open case on me on May 3rd. I called the office many times to find out what was going on. No one would ever return my calls. Finally, on June 4th, a caseworker finally called me back. She told me that something that happened when we all lived in MT had recently come to light. There were some very serious allegations against me. She told me that unfortunately she could not tell me what they were, but I would eventually be told so I could defend myself, and she told me also that since I was in IL she would forward the case down there, then a caseworker in IL would contact me, interview me, submit a report back to the OCS in AK where they would complete the assessment and let me know if I could have my kids for their summer visit. So, I've been waiting for the past few weeks to be contacted by the IL Department of Family Services. They were great to talk to, a supervisor looked in the system, they were never forwarded anything from AK, and she told me that even if they were sent something, they would not investigate or interview me because the alleged abuse did not happen in IL. I asked her if the Department of Family Services, or its equivalent in MT, would investigate, since that is where the alleged abuse took place. She told me no, since neither parent nor the children currently live there. So basically, the folks in AK won't interview me or tell me what the allegations are, nobody in IL will investigate and MT will not investigate. It is bizarre, I've left multiple messages with the caseworker in AK to see what is going on, but they will not return my calls. This is par for the course for them. This case has been open for over 9 weeks, I have lost one visit with my children and I am about to lose my summer visit too. I know that I could file a motion to have our parenting plan enforced, but the mother will just inform the courts that I am currently under investigation for child abuse, sexual I'm assuming. And I can bet how the court will rule. Does anyone here have experiences in these types of child abuse cases that involve multiple jurisdictions? A user in the comments said, hire a lawyer in AK as soon as you can to help you. Don't bother with IL since they legally have nothing to do with the situation, yet it sounds like MT-CPS is also uninvolved at this point. And then OP said, yes, I should check with MT-CPS, thanks. And guys, please let me know in the comments your opinion about this case. And now we will read the update to the story from just now. So, I have been involved in a Kafka-esque nightmare for the last few months, but things have come to a head and the end is near. A lot has happened since I posted this in late spring. Just as some of you in that thread suggested, my lawyer filed an expedited motion to enforce visitation. My ex filed a response. She said that our oldest son had accused me of sexual abuse. It had supposedly came to light while she was giving him a bath, having a discussion about good touches and bad touches. He is 7. She further stated that she had reported it to the AKOCS and they had verified the abuse charges and they were investigating, and there would also be possible law enforcement involvement as well. She also said that OCS told her that she could lose custody if she allowed me visitation by endangering the children. She also reported in her affidavit that she has been trying to get in touch with the caseworker and she would not return her calls. She included with her motion a letter from an organization affiliated with the OCS that conducted the interview with our child, verifying that there was an ongoing investigation. She also filed a motion asking for full physical and legal custody of our children. I then filed a reply rebutting her allegation and also asking for custody of our kids. The judge ruled within a week. She granted my motion for an expedited hearing on enforcing my summer visitation, and she set the date for the hearing at the beginning of October. The judge also ordered a custody investigator to interview my son and ordered the OCS caseworker to appear at the hearing. So my ex cancelled my spring visitation and the court effectively cancelled my summer visitation. I was frustrated beyond belief, but relieved that I would get some answers. My lawyer filed a motion to have the OCS records released, and they verified that I was being accused of sexually abusing my son over a long period of time. It was absurd, but I was scared. It's surprisingly hard to prove that you did not do something. My ex started to play games with my video chats with our kids. She would schedule and cancel over and over again. 3 weeks at a time would pass without me talking to the kids. She then informed me that she would not be enrolling our oldest into school, she was going to homeschool him. We had been fighting over homeschooling since she told me she was moving to AK. I even put a stipulation in our parenting plan that the children would attend public school. So another motion was filed to order her to return our son to public school. The judge granted my motion. The report from the custody investigator was also released at this time. The report mentioned nothing about sexual abuse, but was focused on how sad my son was that his mean mom would not let him talk to me. It talked about how I was my son's favorite family member and mentioned how he teared up when he said his biggest goal in life was to see his father again. But the time the hearing rolled around at the beginning of this month, I had still heard nothing from the AKOCS or any other state CPS or any law enforcement. At the hearing, I had a psychologist testify for me. He had conducted an ABLE assessment on me and found that my sexual profile was in line with the typical male, and he found that I had no propensity for sexual attraction to prepubescents. My ex had a psychologist that our son was seeing testify for her. The psych said that our son had an anxiety disorder. My ex's lawyer asked the psych a lot of questions about if homeschooling would be good for our son's psyche, but never asked the psychologist one question about sexual abuse. The psychologist did mention that my son did talk a lot about how much he missed me. Then the OCS caseworker was called to the stand. Before our lawyers questioned her, the judge said that she had some questions for the caseworker. The first question she asked was, if the abuse was reported in January, why didn't you interview the child until April? The caseworker said that her workload was high. Then the judge asked if the OCS had finally reached a conclusion. The OCS worker said, "Yes, we are closing the case and I am about to write up the report. We have found that the allegations are substantiated." My jaw dropped. The judge then asked, "Are you telling me that you are ruling that these allegations are substantiated, yet the father has never been interviewed? He has made himself available for months and no one has contacted him." The caseworker explained to the judge that since the abuse happened in another state, they could not interview me, but that they found our son to be credible. The judge asked, "What about law enforcement? Why couldn't they interview the father?" The caseworker then told the judge that they had referred the allegations to the sheriff's office in the county we lived in MT and she had not heard back from them. She said she was still waiting to hear back from them before closing the case. "But you just told me that you had already closed the case, didn't you?"
Yes, Your Honor.
The caseworker stammered. At this point, there was a Perry Mason moment where my ex's lawyer stood up and said, "In the spirit of openness, Your Honor, we must tell the court that my client received a letter from the MT County Attorney's Office saying that they had reviewed the case and had decided that there was not enough probable cause for an indictment and they were closing the case." That surprised me and my lawyer. I had no idea that there was an investigation going on in MT. Apparently, it did not progress far enough for me to even be interviewed. We also learned that there was a video interview of my son done by the OCS. The judge ended the hearing by saying she wanted to watch the video before ruling. She granted me unsupervised visitation with my kids for 6 hours for the next 2 days while I was in AK. I had to keep them in a public place and stay within a 5-mile radius of where the mother dropped them off with me. She stressed that I could not take them back to my hotel. The next week I got a letter from the AK OCS saying that they were closing my case with the allegations ruled not substantiated and there would be no further action. This report was dated the day after the hearing, so they basically reversed themselves within 24 hours after tangling with the judge. I also got a copy of the letter from the MT County Attorney's Office. My ex said she lost the letter, so she could not present it in court. I got a copy of the letter. It was dated 17 days before the hearing. Well, the next hearing has been postponed until mid-November. Exactly 5 days before my Thanksgiving visitation, my lawyer has decided to file a motion waiving any argument at the next hearing, asking for the judge to rule on the evidence as presented. Our argument is that the only reason that the judge wants to watch the video is because the OCS was saying the allegations were substantiated. Now that they have reversed themselves, there is no reason to have her watch the video. So, no legal questions here, I just know that this sub loves updates. I don't think my ex has a chance of getting full custody. I would say I have a 25% chance. And there is a 75% chance that the judge will keep the current order in place. I get the kids for 8 weeks in the summer, plus 3 weeks during the school year. We were not able to prove that my ex acted maliciously and she presented her testimony, so she appeared as a sincerely concerned mother who just wanted to have the OCS see if this was possibly true. So I don't think that the judge will be punitive concerning her at all. I'm hoping for the best. If the judge keeps the current parenting plan in place, I've got a plan that will really shake things up, moving to AK and asking for 50-50 custody. And guys, in regards to this story, this was the last update, but I did some serious deep digging, and as far as I can tell, and if this is true, after a lot more struggle in court, OP actually managed to get the 50-50 custody he was asking for. However, as I said, please take this with a grain of salt. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripe stories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.